What's up, Trojan Nation? My name is Stephen Crane, and it is my honor to present the first ever episode of The Post. Let's roll.
Bring your positive opinions and your stuff and other things, and make your contribution to the Post HLG.
We've done a lot of video work this year, but now we have a YouTube channel. So with our YouTube channel, we have all of our videos on here. We have our student spotlights, we have our tea, we have all of our events posted. All you have to do is search for the Trojan Experience, and then you'll find our page. To start things off, we have a local celebrity made its way into the Twitter thread of several celebrities. A boy right down the street in Bowling Green had
Quincy.
A boy in Quincy was vivaciously playing the tuba and caught the attention of several celebrities. So I know that a lot of you have been playing dance breaks, but I don't think anybody can get down like this kid. On another positive note, one of our departments, a state-ranked program at HLGU, has done what I would consider as going the extra mile in giving back to the community. Dr. Riggs and her program have generously donated several beds, gowns, masks to the local hospital in light of the crisis and all the help them fill their needs. They currently have a really good relationship going, and we had an interview earlier this week to discuss all the efforts they're making to work together to overcome this crisis. Dr. Riggs, welcome.
Hi.
Awesome. So the way we usually start is just tell the audience a little bit about yourself, who you are, in case somebody's watching that they don't know who you are, and then
Sure. Sure. I'm Ann Riggs. I'm the division director of the Craig Miles School of Nursing, and I have been at Hamlet-LaGrange University. This is my 16th year. I joined in 2004 as a nursing instructor and started out there, and then in 2008 was the interim director, and then in 2009 I became the division director of the Craig Miles School of Nursing. So have lived in Hannibal pretty much all my life. Of course, probably you guys know my husband, Lewis, also, Mr. Riggs also works at HLG. And both of our kids have gone there. Meredith actually graduated from HLG, and Thomas was there for a little bit of time in music education. So I've grown up around HLG all my life. I remember in youth group coming out to different activities at HLG. And so it was just natural to end up working here.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being willing to spend some time with us and kind of talk about what the nursing department is doing for HLGU and the community. So I heard through the grapevine that your department and you donated a bunch of material to the hospital in light of the recent, COVID-19 outbreaks and the crisis that's going on. Maybe you can share a little bit about that and like how that happened and all that.
Sure. Yeah, so I mean, we have a great relationship already with all of our clinical partners, but in particular, Hannibal Regional Hospital. And our contact person for Hannibal Regional is a former graduate of our program, and so we have a great relationship with her as well. And of course, over the weeks leading up to probably right about for spring break and right after, when everything just sort of ramped up with our pandemic, we were still in communication with the hospital and just really trying to figure out what we were going to do with our students and try and get as much clinical in as we could. As a result of that, some of the conversations that we had was just what Hannibal Regional Hospital's ongoing needs were. And like many, across the country, the protective equipment, that personal protective, that PPE, was really what the hospitals were struggling in being able to keep up with. And so I started talking to the faculty, Mrs. Juliana, St. Juliana in particular, because she runs our skills lab, and I just said, hey, what do we have that we could let our clinical partners have. And so our students learn how to put on all of that equipment, the gloves and the gowns and the face masks in the first semester of the program, so in the fall. So I knew that we weren't needing it and we wouldn't need it until the fall. So at that point I reached out to Hannibal Regional and I said, hey, here's what we've got. It wasn't a whole lot. I mean, it was several cases of gloves and probably about 150 gowns, and then probably a couple boxes of masks, and just said, hey, they're yours if you want them. And immediately, yes, they they reached out. And so I met up with Jessica, and she came and picked it up. So I took her over to the skills lab and, just said, hey, pretty much what's here is yours if you need it. And of course, she was interested in the beds. So probably about a week or so after that, she reached out again and said that the hospital was looking at just going ahead, sort of based on the models that were out there of what potentially could affect us in this area. They were going to be going ahead and taking some of the new space that they have, they're getting ready to open in a couple months, and going ahead and increasing their bed capacity. Just in the event, that we had that surge that, everyone, has talked about, especially in the larger cities. And they asked if they could borrow our beds. So needless to say, we've had a good laugh in our nurse because I've pretty much given everything away. The faculty are just wondering when I'm going to give them away next. And really, actually, we have an opportunity to help them if it comes to that. We've all talked and said, yes, we'll be available. But so Hannibal Regional Hospital came probably about 2 weeks ago now, and took out all the beds. There were 18 of them, and took about 6 of their crew and some big trucks, and they are using them as part of the part they ramped up in order to make it happen if there is a surge. Right now, our skills lab's sitting pretty bare.
Right.
So I have a question about the program because of the COVID-19, every department is pushed to things that they don't typically want to do or really need to do. But I know specifically with teachers and nurses, they have clinicals they have to do. And so I'm wondering, what has your department done to counteract problems?
Yeah, that's a great question. Probably, about a week after everything started happening, Dr. Allen was making some calls and just checking on everybody. And I know the conversation I had with him then was, while it might not be ideal, it certainly has sort of pushed us out of our comfort zone to think about how we deliver, that content. And the theory part wasn't that hard to figure out. But as you said, Paul, the clinical is definitely the big piece for us. We've been very fortunate because we're so close with Hannibal Regional Hospital that we were allowed to continue to do clinical for a couple of weeks after everything went online, sort of knowing that probably when they got their first case of a positive COVID-19 that would come to an end, and it did, and that is what happened. What happened after that, though, was again somewhat unique, and I think sort of telling of a small community and how well we work together. So what came out of our nursing organizations was that rather than considering nursing students to be classified as visitors, they really needed to classify nursing students as healthcare professionals. So I went back to the hospital. I approached the same individual, Jessica, and just said, hey, what would you think about looking at hiring some of our students as like patient care techs or whatever role that you guys are going to need. Especially we had 10 who we knew already had employment at HRH come this summer. And they jumped right on it, and they knew there was a need, and so then we were allowed to count for those that want to do it. Some of that is clinical, those clinical hours.
That's awesome.
Otherwise, we've gotten really creative, case studies, simulations. Again, it's not ideal. Nothing takes the place of hands-on patient care, but when your back's up against the wall, there's not a whole lot that can be done. And really the biggest challenge for us with our graduating seniors is these hospitals need these graduates. And so we really can't prolong their graduation. And so we are just having to do what we can to get them through from the clinical standpoint. Yeah.
So obviously there has been a big learning curve for everyone, whether it's just in the way you're presenting information or just kind of what you're doing. Do you think that there's anything from this specific situation that you're going to carry over into future years, whether it be specific education delivery or anything like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And as I sort of mentioned earlier, we really, I think we're comfortable in doing things the way we do them all the time. And so these situations have just really sort of pushed us to think that what can we do differently, and then look to say, of those things that we're doing differently, what could we carry on? And I think for us, for a long time, what is it? The saying is death by PowerPoint. I know that's one of the things that we've been wanting to change, and I think this is going to help that, because it's easy to say we want to make changes, but it's very time consuming for the faculty to voice over those PowerPoints and to do all those things that are needed to get them up and going when the day-to-day things are still going on. Well, now they've sort of been forced to do that, or they were forced to do that. Most of them have become very familiar with Screen-O-Matic. And so they voice over their PowerPoint. So what we hope then that we're going to be able to do in the future is be able to post those PowerPoints early, pretty much already have the content given, students can have access to it. And then that's going to allow a little bit more time when we are back together face to face, just to have those conversations, and maybe, what they call flip the classroom, where sort of put some of that learning back off on the students to come prepared, and then just sort of talk through some of those things. So I would say that's probably one of the biggest things that we've learned. Probably also too, we've been wanting to put a lot of our exams on Canvas. Just really, we were nervous and scared of how it was going to go. But really it's gone very well. I think overall, from a security standpoint and being able to deliver those. And so, yeah, we might be able to do that a little bit more too in the future.
Good.
Well, I appreciate you spending some time with us. It's really encouraging to hear about how you guys are giving back to the community, how there's potentially a new program in the future maybe, and then just really how you guys, like you said, you're pulling together and seeing that it can be done, and working together is always better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's something positive always that comes out. You just have to look for it.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, thank you so much for spending some time with us. Really appreciate you doing that, and it's really nice to always hear how HLG is moving forward.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate you reaching out to me.
No problem. Bye-bye.
All right. Okay. Thanks, guys. See you later.
To piggyback off of the generosity of Dr. Riggs and her department, HLGU is now offering 2020 May graduates and 2020 summer graduates a one-time scholarship up to 50% off for any master's degree, depending on your housing. If you have any questions, just go to the institution's Facebook page and I'll have all the details there.
All right, so on the bigger and brighter things, we got to.
Wait a minute. I thought I was doing this. Earlier this week, we got to catch up with a student, and we got to talk about his experiences while he's been away from campus. Zeru Fitsum talked a little bit about the wisdom that he can share with others as he's been quarantining and social distancing. Zeru,
Hey.
Hello.
how are you?
I'm hanging in there. You know what I'm saying, y'all?
Good. So why don't you give us a quick rundown of like what you've been doing while this craziness is going on, and like stuff you've been doing to keep yourself preoccupied?
Honestly, I've been procrastinating on all of my homework. So that's kind of something I've been doing. I've been spending a lot of time talking to people that I haven't in a while. Trying to get back into reading books. The first couple weeks I was here, got into good groove, and then lost it in a couple days.
Yeah.
Been spending a lot of time with my family. That's been super good. Yeah, man. But mostly trying to convince myself to do homework, or at least read my Bible and pray, and a lot of those things haven't been happening.
Yeah. What have you been doing outside of homework?
Yeah. So I watched a couple TV shows that were, my bad about that sound.
You're good.
I get notifications; those are gonna pop up. But I've been watching quite a few TV shows that are in Mandarin because I'm trying to like work on my listening and my hearing, because like I'm developing the vocab and learning the grammar rules of the language. So watching some TV shows on Netflix that are not English. Thankfully, the show is pretty good. The shows are pretty good, so it's not like hard to get through. The subtitles aren't a bother, and I was like, oh, I'm starting to get a hang of some of it.
That's really
cool.
Yeah, it's been fun.
So what do you think about all this COVID-19 stuff?
So I'm going to try to see if I can explain this joke in a way that it makes sense in English. So my family's and then I'll tell you what I think about it. My family's Ethiopian, so the language we speak is Amharic, and so the name Corona, they pronounce it Corona, but what the word na means is come to a guy. So if you say Corona, it means tarra, it means you called it. But COVID, heed means go, right? So I'd rather say COVID than Corona, because Corona means you're calling it to come, but COVID means you're telling it to leave.
Gotcha.
So that's how I feel about this. I want it gone.
Yeah.
Heed means leave. It means leave. But seriously, man, I do think it's making it is building hopefully rhythms and patterns into our lives where we're thinking about the things that truly matter, right? But I will say a lot of my focus has been like, dang, when is this going to be done? I saw an article, I don't know how true it is, but like that some people are saying unless they find a virus, this social distancing might be happening until 2022. I didn't read the whole thing, but it was like a CNN article. So like, even though people have different thoughts about CNN, if they're going to post something, like they have to be really careful about what they do. So I was like,
Yeah.
oh no.
Yeah, that's what's been crazy about this whole like COVID-19 is there's so many different like projections and numbers. Like, one says that like, only this amount of people are going to get it, but then the other one says the entirely opposite. And,
Yeah. And
Yeah,
some people are like, just gather now. It's not going to bother anyone.
Yeah.
And it's like, people are dying. But yeah, I really hope it's sooner than later, right?
Yeah, and you're from the Kansas City area,
Yeah.
right? So it's kind of rough over there.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, they're, at least for the Midwest, it's crazy some of the stats I'm hearing in New York and California, but I think, in KC, things are starting to build up definitely that I didn't even realize.
Yeah.
Is Hannibal pretty good?
I mean, we have a single case in Rawls County and not a single case in Marion County.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
I say Hannibal itself hasn't had any. Some
Right.
of the very small surrounding towns have, and they've come to Hannibal Regional to get tested and such, but it hasn't luckily been any residents of Hannibal. So that's
Okay.
good.
Yeah.
That's good.
So,
do you like being home? Do you miss HLGU? Like, what's that feel like? What's it feel like to be this huge change in rhythms and schedule? And
Yeah, that's a good question. So when I first heard Casey was going on 30 days of lockdown, I about had like a panic attack, and I said, "Mom, I'm going. I can't stay here for 30 more days." They said that on what was it? It was like March 23rd or something. I was like, no way. I'm gone. I love you guys so much, but like being home for 2 to 3 weeks, y'all are already getting tired of me. I'm getting tired of being an annoyance to y'all. So I'm going to just go back to school where I can do homework. But it's actually like I got to talk to them that night. And that night actually ended up being really good for the family to where it's actually been really enjoyable. Like at first, I do still miss school, don't get me wrong, and try to contact my friends and tell them I miss them and see how things are going, but it's gone better at home than I thought it would be on this lockdown. So that's been really.
Well, those of us on campus definitely miss having all of you guys around. It's definitely been really just weird, honestly.
Yeah.
Is it like pretty depressing sometimes?
It's bad.
Well, this morning there was snow on the ground when I woke up, and I don't like snow. So that wasn't super awesome. But last week when it was like 85 degrees and we could sit outside or go for walks and stuff like that, that was not depressing. That part was really nice. So,
That's awesome.
yeah, I'm working from home now, but I still have to sometimes periodically go to the office to print off papers and fill out expense reports and stuff like that. So it's whenever I go on campus, it's like tumbleweeds and it's really not that bad. Paul comes up to the office. Sometimes we'll shoot a video and do something goofy real quick. Michaela's in the office doing stuff sometimes. So it's not a complete
y'all
ghost
have a
town, but it
drone?
is. Hmm?
Do y'all have a drone that y'all use for some of the videos y'all shoot?
Neil Sneed has a drone, and I think Tim Fenn has a drone. But those
Okay.
seeing that isn't us. That's,
Okay, so I was about to say, are some of these videos that have come out what y'all were doing? Because I was like,
the really nice ones aren't us.
okay. I mean, all of them have been really nice, but these recent ones too, I'm like, like just a lot of good stuff, content coming
Yeah,
out.
for sure.
Yeah,
That
I'm
was
working on my
Neil's
basketball
voice.
skills.
Oh, that was Neil's voice?
Yeah, that male voice. I was like, who is that? And it's Neil's.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been working on my basketball skills in the time off. So
Yeah.
That video killed me, bro. That last shot, the one, what was
the
it?
bowling one.
Yeah, the bowling one. I was like, this is so ridiculous, but it got me, dude.
I had a lot of fun with that.
laughed
We had a lot of fun with that.
for sure.
We were walking around thinking, how stupid can we make this?
Literally, yeah.
Yeah.
So you said you've been spending some time with your family, like those late night talks and stuff like that. You said those have been really positive.
Yeah, they have.
If you don't mind, like what positivity has come out of that? If you don't mind sharing, like what does that
Yeah.
look like?
So a lot of kind of what's happened is what it's kind of restored being with each other every night is kind of family devotions at night. So like even growing up as a kid, I have 4 siblings now, but when I just had 2 siblings, my 2 older ones, it was like every night we would go through like Genesis or Exodus or a book of the Bible where we would go through the scriptures together and spend time as a family in prayer, right? Wanting to center our hearts and minds in thankfulness to God for the day, but also recognition for how he can feel trust in us as individuals and with each other throughout our lives, right? Wanting to do that. And so it's kind of restored that, that it's kind of been out of rhythm for these past several years of our lives. You know what I mean? Where as a family, that hasn't always been something we've been able to do every day because we haven't been with each other. And so that's kind of led to a lot of the positivity, I think, you know what I mean? Being engaged in the word together, wanting to love Jesus and recognize what he's done for us has kind of been a really good, and just even the way we treat one another, try to seek forgiveness when we hurt one another throughout the day. You know what I mean? I've noticed those type of things.
That's super cool. That's super,
Yeah,
super
dude, it's been fun.
That's one thing that I've been doing with my 2-year-old. I pray with him every night, and usually he just closes his eyes and acts like he's sleeping or something. But more recently, he's been repeating what I'm saying.
Uh-huh.
A couple nights ago, it was really sweet. He didn't want to go to sleep, so I don't know if it was out of sin he was doing this, but he named probably 50 different things. He said, "Thank Jesus for this pillow. Thank Jesus for this pillow. Thank Jesus for this pillow." And he just like named everything in his room, and it was really, really sweet. And it's crazy how like this whole COVID thing, God wasn't surprised by it.
Yeah.
And how powerful he is in using everything just to bring him more glory. And I think that's just really
That's right. You got a manipulator in your hands with your son, though. That's so funny. He said, "I thank you for this pillow and this pillow." But no, I think you're right about even if everything is created for his glory, even somehow this is panning out to be that direction as well. So, yeah.
So, what are some things that you've learned about yourself being, not secluded from a lot of people and being out of your not out of your comfort zone, but not in your normal?
Yeah.
About yourself through this whole thing.
I think something I've learned about myself is I really enjoy being alone more than I thought I did, and probably more than other people think I would. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I definitely still am an extrovert. I wouldn't say that I would fall under the category of introvert, and if I actually did, I don't think people would believe me if I said so. But yeah, man, I've been like, I'm okay, like, you know what I mean? Not being around people as much. It's not hurting me as much as I thought it would. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like that's something I've learned that I've kind of been surprised by. I thought it would be like, man, it's been like a month already and stuff like this. I'm about to break down, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go on a spontaneous visit, but I've kind of just been chilling. So that's one thing I've learned. Another thing I've learned is I know I love working hard in the things I enjoy, but I tend to procrastinate in the things I don't.
Mhm.
But when I have more time, I also procrastinate in the things I do enjoy. So that's another thing I've learned about myself as well. It's like, dang, this is a cycle that I have to like fight every day. So those are
Yeah.
probably two things I'd mention off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think especially with your first one, I think I've noticed the same thing about myself. Uh, I'm okay, and I almost like I feel like I enjoy being not having to go to school. I mean, like I'm going to school, but like I've enjoyed being able to have time to do it.
Yeah.
And I never thought I'd say that, but I mean, I miss the people and I miss HLG, but like I'm doing okay, not seeing
Sure.
them. Not that I don't want to, but
Yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, that's real, man. And another thing I enjoy, man, is I can literally wake up at 7:59 and click on a Zoom link, have it off video, put my mic on mute, and if I want to get up, I can. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
And I still make sure I'm awake. You know what I'm saying? So if they call on me, I'll be like, hey, I'm here. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
but it's like, you mean I don't gotta get up and get dressed and walk to my classroom, even though I don't like online classes
Yeah.
for the sake of formative education. Like they're doing the best they can with it, right? So I definitely appreciate that. It has kind of been nice to be like, yo, I don't mind this for the last half of this year.
Yeah. No, I feel that. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Zeru, if you can leave with one positive little tidbit of wisdom or advice, if you can hand that over to somebody, if you're passing in the street, just something you can tell somebody through this COVID outbreak, what would that be?
Yeah, I was talking to my cousin about this on IG Live actually last night, and know Jesus, like he was talking about we were talking about theology and why it matters for everyone. And the purpose of engaging in theology is not to be people in our minds who just love knowledge and try to look smart, but the goal is to know Christ and his love and to see who he is over everything, Lord, Savior, and also our greatest treasure. And so to push people towards seeking him, right, to push people towards being satisfied in him is probably what I would try to go to, namely through the word, namely through prayer, what we hear all the time. But I'd also encourage them probably to look at some resources of sermons or books, or also just creative artistic things people have tried to throughout the centuries do to point people to his beauty and glory. So that's what I probably leave with.
That's
no
awesome.
Jesus. Yeah, no Jesus.
No Jesus. Amen.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any other questions for Mr. Zeru?
I think so.
Awesome. Zeru, thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Yeah.
Good to hear that you and your family are digging back into the Word every night. Super encouraging. Keep doing that. I miss you. I hope to see you back on campus soon. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me on here. It's been really good to see you all. Miss y'all.
Yep. Bye.
See you later.
Bye.
This has been Positive Opinions, Stuff and Things, and I know that there's a lot more positive things going on. So feel free to share that with us on our Facebook, our Instagram, and also check out our YouTube page. We got a lot of stuff on there. We'll catch you next week on The Post.
Bring your positive opinions and your stuff and other things, and make your contribution to the Post HLG.